And welcome on in to the next NHL season preview show. And today we are going to be talking about the Dallas Stars, their 2023 2024 season outlook, upcoming free agents, future bets, and of course, additions and subtractions. On my left is TK, who has been on the CFL shows with me and Nick. Um, and Nathan on my right has come on NHL betting shows before. And I believe you were on the Dallas preview show last year as well. And ready to talk the Dallas Stars coming into this season. And I was telling TK before the season started, or before the show started, that the Dallas Stars is one of the few division rivals that I don't hate. Uh, being a Wild fan, most of the division rivals I cannot stand, but the Dallas Stars are one of the few that I I don't have any negative feelings for. So that's always nice. But we'll jump into the show and we'll start in the first segment here, which is additions and subtractions, looking at what Dallas has done here in the offseason. And not really a whole lot when you look at it here. Additions bringing in Craig Smith, which is a good offensive addition, a depth addition. Matt Duchene, how will he do in Dallas? Nashville really blew things up the offseason. Sam Steele leaving Minnesota to come to Dallas. It looks like he's going to be a depth guy like he was in Minnesota, either playing in the fourth line or getting scratched. So not sure what big of a role he'll have with the Stars. Leaving Frederick Olofsson in a trade, Colin Miller in a trade, Kiviranta I think is a bit of a loss. Max Domi going to Toronto, and then the other two guys I think are just depth guys, so not really too big of losses. When you look at it, I think Dallas's offseason is kind of neutral. I don't really think they got worse. I don't really think they got a whole lot better. But when we get to the lineup and look at the lineup later on here in the show, they didn't really need to do a whole lot. I think this roster looks pretty good how it is. TK will go to you second this time. What do you think your additions and subtractions for what Dallas has done here in the offseason?
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing exactly. I mean, it's just kind of neutral. I I don't like the loss of Kiviranta. Um, I think that kind of hurts just a little bit, but I mean, ultimately, I still kind of see the additions and subtractions just kind of like an even wash almost. I don't really see anything spectacular there. The losses I don't think will be detrimental or anything like that. So just kind of a bland off season in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Nathan, what do you think your additions and subtractions? What are your opinions here?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. We can't really do much, and that's going to be the Dallas offseason future for the next couple years till we get Sagan and Ben off. I think Duchesne, that's kind of a big name. He got a 1 year, $3 million prove it deal. Hopefully, we'll see how that works out. Once we get to the lines later, we'll see kind of where he scratches in. The Kiviranta and Glendening, those are two forwards that were giving us a little bit of spark there on the third and fourth line. So we'll see how Craig Smith and Sam Steele slot right in there. So yeah, like I said before, not too much is expected in Dallas offseason for a while until Sagan and Ben get off the books.
Basically the same as the Wild, and when the Parisian Suitor buyouts are done, we're kind of in the same spot there. But moving on along to the second segment here, which is upcoming free agents. Looking at who is upcoming free agent here for the Dallas Stars. And I have their pictures here of the most important guys I think Dallas should be focusing on re-signing here in the offseason. Yes, Joe Pavelski is, I believe, 37 or 38, but still producing at a high rate. Finished third in points on Dallas last year with 77 points in 82 games. Um, his age is a number. He's producing at a high rate, has really good chemistry with Hintz and Robertson. So I think you re-sign Pavelski. Probably going to be not too expensive a deal because of his age. So you could probably get him at a good price. but I'd resign him. Ty Dellandrea as an RFA, so you can probably still get him at a good price. I definitely re-sign him. Duchesne and Craig Smith, it depends how they do this year, how things go for them. Sam Steele, I think, is probably going to find himself on another NHL team. He plays really hard at times, and you can see that he's really trying hard, but just the offense isn't just it's just not there. He's a first round bust, unfortunately. He just is never going to be the first round player that he was drafted to be. Looking at the defenseman, Thomas Harley, his picture is there as well. I think you resign him. He's an RFA. It's not should it be too much issue. I do think he's probably going to want a bit of a raise. So we'll have to see how Dallas can afford that. And then with the goaltenders, Matt Murray and Scott Wedgwood, of course, not the Matt Murray everybody thinks when you see Matt Murray. It's really crazy that there's two Matt Murrays in the NHL. But the Dallas Stars Matt Murray is a younger goaltender who played pretty well. I think he got a little bit of a taste in the NHL there, and he played well. So I think you'd really want to sign him for a really cheap deal. And Wedgwood, I don't know. I'll want to hear your guys' thoughts, and if you think Dallas should re-sign Wedgwood, maybe for another 1 year deal type thing to be the backup. But I think Pavelski, doesn't matter how old he is, I would be re-signing him and re-sign Thomas Harley as well. Nathan, upcoming free agents, what do you think should be the Stars' main focus here in the offseason?
Yeah, I agree. That's one thing the Stars have on that top line of Pavelski, Robertson, and Hintz, as well as Miro. All young stars or prime stars in their age, and it's making him find a role that just lets him be ageless at this point. You said he was second on the team with 77 points last year. He led the team the year before. Like, it's been the revitalization of Joe Pavelski. He's really got that role. So I think him and Jim Neal. Jim Neal just won GM of the Year, I believe, last year as well, and got a new contract out of it. I think they'll figure out a way to bring Pavs back. So I think that'll be their number one priority. And then I do like Harley. Harley and Hakanpää are two guys that are on that second defensive pairing for the Stars. So it's going to be real hard to replace them. But defense that's where they've decided to take their licks due to the two big contracts I mentioned earlier. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I also think they might do something at the trade deadline because in order to stay competitive in the playoffs, they're going to have to get some defensive depth. So we'll see what they do with defense. And Duchesne's on a prove it deal. So if he finds a good spot on that second or third line where he's going to end up probably second line, we'll see if they have enough money to go after him and keep him here, depending on how much he proves it to the rest of the NHL that he's still good. And then goalie wise, yeah, the kid Matt Murray, he got I think it was 4 games last year. He looked good at times, looked rough at times, still just adjusting to the league. So I like him. And then once again, it depends on how much people value Scott Wedgwood and how much he likes Texas on whether he wants to stay at this point. So we'll see at goalie, but I do like Matt Murray. And then another name for all the forwards that are unrestricted free agents, we do have Stankoven that's been biting at the bit. We'll talk about him later on for player props when he does come up, but he is biting to come make a move and get some playing time on that roster.
Awesome. TK, upcoming free agents for Dallas. Who do you think they should be focused on re-signing the offseason?
I think Pavelski is a no-brainer. We saw it several times last season where he was out, especially in the playoffs, and the power play really hurt. That's a huge piece that would be missing if we're not able to get him signed. So I think that's very important. There's several times where I thought maybe he's getting up there in age and he can't do it, but he continues to prove everyone wrong when it comes to that. So I think that's one focus. Duchesne, yeah, I don't really expect too much out of him. I kind of think he'll last maybe the season. Maybe they'll let him go before that. I'm not sure, but I'm not really expecting too much out of him. Really, Pavelski and Dellandrea are the ones that I think are important as far as forwards. Defensemen, definitely Hakanpää and Harley. Goaltending, I think when you look at Dallas, their biggest thing that they like to do is just kind of ride the hot goaltender throughout the season. They did it with Bishop was on a roll. They're doing it now. And I think that they need to take a look at, I'll call him Matthew Murray, so we don't get him confused. But I know he had a rough time when he got the call up last season. But if you look how he was in the AHL with the Texas Stars, his first season 2 years ago, I mean, he had a save percentage of a 9.47. He was 5-1 as far as his record in the 6 games that he played. And then last season, you look at it where his save percentage was 9.11. And I mean, he's a pretty good guy. I understand that you call him up, he might have a rough couple of games or whatnot, but I think he's worth it as far as keeping around. I see this kind of the same way that they like to do things when they have these young goaltenders that play in the AHL. They find these gems that play lights out, and then when they get the call up, they tend to do pretty well over a long period of time. So I think he's more important. I think Wedgwood. He's kind of a fill-in guy, but in my opinion, for the long term, they got to start finding a reliable backup to try to give some rest and stop playing the starter all the time. That's just killing it because you get in the playoffs and he's out of gas.
100%. The NHL is totally moving away from a starter backup role and much more moving to a 1A, 1B with most teams.
Mhm.
Unless you're the Tampa Bay Lightning, because they have Vasilevsky and then Jonas Johansson. So I'm sure they'll stick with Vasilevsky for 60 plus games again this year. But every other team should be trying to focus on playing your backup a bit more. Looking at possible lineup, this is a lineup according to Daily Faceoff. This is what they have here. And the top line, no big surprise. Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski. Of course, Pavelski props. I cashed on a lot last year. Hintz as well. I focused on both of them. And then, of course, Heiskanen assist. Richie, who is a good friend of the show that watches all the shows, big Stars fan as well. He loved his Pavelski goal and Heiskanen assist props. So those will be props that I will look at to start the season as well. Ben Johnston and Dadonov on the second line. I really like Johnston. I cashed on his props as well last year at really good prices. He's definitely someone I'm going to be keeping my eye on for the Stars for player props. That third line, Marchment, Sagan, and Duchesne, that's a pretty strong third line when you look at it compared to some what other teams have. Yes, Sagan and Duchesne are getting up there and have question marks. But when they're on, they're on. Marchman, I think, will be a good um, physical winger to play with them. Goaltending, Ottinger, we pretty much know what we're going to get from him. We talked about Wedgwood and Murray, capable backups. The Stars' only little issue is the defense. I'd like to see some other guys get more playing time. If Daily Faceoff is correct and Ryan Suter is on your top defensive pair, that is an issue. That's an issue. I think we can probably all agree that Suter should not be on your top pair. He should be on the third pair, if even in the lineup at all, because not only is he not the best player anymore compared to what he was previously, he's not very good in the locker room. And if you want more on that, I talked about it in the Minnesota Wild video, which is on the channel, looking at the history. But yeah, I'm not a Suter fan, and just his turnovers are really bad as well. So I think Suter is the main issue, but the defense as a whole, I think, could be improved. But when you have the four lines, and I didn't even really talk about the fourth line for the Stars, but that's a really, really strong fourth line as well. So Dallas is going to be able to score some goals. Ottinger is going to keep them in games, but the defense, we're going to have to see what we get from them this year. TK, possible lineup for the Stars. What do you think overall about this lineup here?
I don't expect too many major changes from the possible lineup here. I think that's pretty accurate. Like you said, with the forwards, I think there's going to be a good amount of scoring. um, all around from all of these lines. But I think if you read the Dallas Stars Twitter page in games, myself, I tweeted out a lot. Anytime there's a goal scored, I guarantee you it's because Ryan Suter's on the ice and blew at some point. I can't stand it. I don't know what his issue is at all, but that's going to be the Achilles heel, in my opinion, is going to be the defense. Primarily, I'm naming Ryan Suter because of it. It's really leaning a lot on Ottinger and the goaltending to bail him out. We saw it numerous times, and then you run up against teams like Vegas that can put it on you and keep the pressure on you. There's only so much that you could do. So that's going to be something that we're going to need to watch, and maybe at the trade deadline we start making a move for defense. I called for it last year, and I think we still need to do it. We've got to fix the defense. I think that's the one missing piece that we need in order to really start making a serious push. I still think that they're a playoff team. Don't get me wrong, but that's good. When it comes down to it, if a series loss, it's going to be because of defense. But I think the lineup is pretty accurate. That's kind of the way that I see it as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll get to playoffs here in a second. I think Dallas is the Central, I think, is very, very set. I think Colorado and Dallas will be fighting for first and second. I think Minnesota is still locked into that third spot. And we'll obviously talk about the other teams, but I think the Central's pretty set. Dallas will be a playoff team. It would shock me. It would take a lot of injuries for the Stars to miss the playoffs. And Nathan, you were talking about Stankoven earlier. He is not listed on Daily Face-Off, which is totally fine because we do see in the preseason young players do make the team that are unexpected. You hinted at maybe him making a roster spot. What do you think about this overall lineup here for the Stars?
Yeah, I like it. And it seems like they're kind of rolling out with a bunch of their lineups from the playoffs. They finally found someone who can hopefully zone out Suter and not and find the least impact spot for his uh, negative qualities. But Suter Heiskanen, that's kind of been the best pair. I know they've mixed up the defensive pairings a lot, trying to figure out where the optimal lineup was there. So I'd put him next to Miro on that top one because then you can at least know that Miro is going to give you solid time to make up for it. That Ben Johnston Dadonov lineup, I like that one a lot. I know they were trying to figure out where Mason Marchment and Will Johnston would end up, and I think they kind of figured out Marchment Sagan in the first round of the playoffs really worked. So throwing Duchesne in there can't hurt. Then you have that spark plug fourth lineup. So like everyone said, the forwards are pretty much set. That power play special that you were hinting at earlier with the Miro assist, Pavelski goal, that was something you saw a lot. So we're gonna be looking for them to get out and do the opposite of what happened in the Western Conference Finals and get out and get ahead in 5-on-5 and get those top 2-3 lineups going and on the power play. And then we also need some sort of load management. We saw Ottinger get hurt last year, and he looked kind of tired and beat down by the end of that playoff run. So we're going to have to see if we can get some defensemen at the trade deadline, and hopefully we get some more Scott Wedgwood during the season because there should be no reason why Ottinger plays more than 60 games this year. You'll see me being mad about that this year on Twitter if Ottinger gets up there on the games.
No, for sure. You don't want to overplay your starter. And if Wedgwood isn't performing, if they don't really trust Matt Murray yet, there are guys available on the market. I will obviously get to the New Jersey show later on, but I posted on Twitter today. New Jersey has 5 goaltenders now, and obviously a few of them are young, but they are really deep at goal. So there are teams with extra goalies if Dallas needs to make a trade, but Wedgwood played pretty well when he played last year, and when Auditor was hurt as well. Wedgwood played well, so um, hopefully he does get more starts this year. Looking at future bets for the Dallas Stars here for next year. Last year they had 108 points. The year before they had 98. So it was a 10-point increase. And it was only one extra win. It was actually the overtime losses that boosted up the point total for Dallas last year. Make the playoffs. Obviously, there's no value with that. President's Trophy. Uh, Honestly, for both of you, I'm sure you don't want Dallas to win the President's Trophy because I did mention it in another video. Of course, someone commented and said there is no President's Trophy curse. But I think we can all agree if you win the President's Trophy, look what's happened in recent years. You don't want to win the President's Trophy if you want to make a long playoff run. So I think Dallas would probably want to avoid the President's Trophy, win the division at plus 170. I wish that was a little bit higher. Colorado, I think, is plus 150. So obviously, it's priced correctly. I do think Dallas has a good shot at the division. So if you want to lay that plus 170, um, you could look at the Stanley Cup. Really like this Dallas team. I like all four lines. Ottinger is a very good goaltender. The defense has some young guys, and these young guys will take the next step forward. So will it be this year? We'll have to see. But I think Dallas could make another run in the playoffs this year. Looking at player props, Robertson goals, he had 46 last year, 43 and a half. I'm not really too interested in that. Hintz points is at 79 and a half. He had 75 last year. Was He missed 9 games. So assuming he plays a full season, I think he hits his point total and is in the 80s somewhere. Oettinger wins 37 last year, played 62 games. If what Nathan wants is right and it happens and Oettinger plays less games, you may not want to go near that win total. In fact, you may want to look at possibly the under because he had 37 last year. Maybe Wedgwood sees more games, and we actually would take an under with Oettinger wins. Heiskanen to win the Norris is a pretty nice price there at plus 1400. I would look at that. Who will have more points, Dallas or Vegas? Um, I don't like the minus 130 for the price for Dallas. That's a hard matchup to predict who will have more points. I would probably go with Dallas, but I don't want to lay the minus 130. So that's not a play for me. Really, for this team, for the Dallas Stars, sprinkle on the Stanley Cup and maybe a sprinkle on Heiskanen to win the Norris. And I would look at Hint's points as well. I think he has another good year this season. Nathan, we'll go to you second this time. What do you think for future bets for the Stars? Anything on this page catch your eye?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about some trends that we saw last year, and then I'll talk about one player that didn't get playing, but it was a rookie last year that ended up doing really well and is sitting on that second line. So the Stars do have been known for not being good on the road, and like you said earlier, the division plus 170, that's not exactly what we're sitting at, and I think we can get better odds after November. 8 of their 14 games are on the road in November, and you've grown used to it in Dallas. Even with the new coach, they're not your road warriors. So I think you're going to get better odds early on, but I do think getting all those road games out of it will put them at their worst position. So you'll be able to get better odds in the future during the season there. Even though they're still going to be a good team, they'll bounce back from it, but they'll be behind, so to speak, because they're going on the road a lot more. But I will be taking Wyatt Johnson for his point total over. I don't know what it is right now, but I think getting him on that second line with Ben and Dadonov will make his points hit that over because he didn't start playing um, a lot till about halfway through the season. And even then, he was only on the fourth line earlier. And so getting him consistent um ice time with experienced veterans will help his point total chances hitting over a whole lot more than it did last year when he was just scrapping around and making really great plays and being on highlight reels. So those are the futures I'm looking at.
Awesome. Yeah, he had 41 points in 82 games, 24 goals. So he was actually fifth on the Stars in goals, ahead of Tyler Sagan last year. TK, what do you think for future bets for the Stars? Anything on this page or any other future bets that are catching your eye?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think the point total at 105.5 is a pretty close number, but I think it still goes over. I think I think they still get that. There's no value, like you said, in making the playoffs, but I'm pretty sure that they make the playoffs unless something drastic happens. President's Trophy, I'm not interested in. I'd stay away from that. Like you said, I believe that there's a curse. If you win the President's Trophy, you're done in the first round. So that's what I don't want to touch that at all. Um, Winning the division, I mean, it to me, I kind of see it like it was last year. It's between them and Colorado, and it's just going to be a fight towards the end and coming down to the last 10 or 15 games as far as who wins who wins the division there. So um, I would probably throw something on that. I think they ended up winning it this year. Winning the conference, I'm gonna just stay away from. Not saying that they can't do it, but I'm just too concerned with the defense to get involved with that. I kind of want to, see some improvement in the defense before I start looking at anything or believing that they can win the conference. Um, Robertson goals. I'll stay away from that one, but I do think that Hintz points definitely does go over. And Ottinger wins, I think, goes over. We mentioned it before that he plays a ton, and I would expect that he's going to get a lot of work. And we mentioned the offense and how good the offense is. So I would say that he goes over the 35.5 as far as wins. Um, I'll stay away from the Heiskanen to win the Norris, Ottinger to win the Vezina. I mean, if you want to sprinkle something on it, hey, anything could happen. Who will have more points between Dallas and Vegas? I'll stay away from that one as well. Yeah, I don't care for Vegas, but I mean, it seems like the past 2 years, it's always a scrappy fight towards the end, the last 10 or 15 games. So I'll stay away from that one.
Yeah, DraftKings did really well with the who will have more points. A lot of the matchups are really like difficult to predict.
Yeah.
Then you have Montreal and Chicago, which I think is an absolutely easy one at minus 115 apiece. Check out the Montreal and Chicago videos for that. And then Minnesota has St. Louis, or Minnesota has Calgary, which is a really interesting
Hmm.
matchup as well. But that is the Dallas Stars preview show. Thank you guys both for coming here. And of course, make sure to follow both guys. Their Twitter links are in the description below. So make sure to give them a follow. And thanks for watching, guys. And next up to talk the Dallas Stars is Nicholas Earl at Earl Sports Bets. Make sure to give him a follow. His Twitter is in the description below. Nick, the Dallas Stars, we had you on to talk Colorado. Now you're talking about Dallas, who's they're pretty close in the odds to win the Central Division. Pretty even in the odds there. So we'll see what you have to say about the Dallas Stars. Jump right into it here and start with the additions and subtractions for the Stars in the offseason. Not a big list compared to some other teams, but it's bigger than the Islanders list, which we'll get to on another show. Their list is really small. But what do you think here for the Dallas Stars?
Yeah, this is a team where they had a lot of their core already kind of locked down already. So they didn't really need to go out and do much. They didn't really lose much either. They didn't really go out and get much, but they didn't really lose much. Kiviranta, Max Domi are probably the big two losses for them. But Craig Smith, I think, can come in. He'll probably be like a fourth line guy. Sam Steele, most likely, will probably just be like a healthy scratch or a fourth line guy. Matt Duchene, I think, is going to be pretty decent with this team. You might see him on a line with like Sagan. I think he may be able to fit in pretty well there. So overall, I mean, they didn't lose much, but they didn't gain much. So it's kind of a neutral type of feel here. Not too much to go over. Just they got a couple nice guys. They lost a couple guys. But overall, I mean, they already have a decent core that they really didn't need to add to.
Yeah, a lot of teams don't really have to do a whole much in the offseason. That's the Dallas Stars. But looking at their upcoming free agents list here, uh, a bigger list, and then their additions and subtractions. There's some important names on here. Who do you think Dallas should be focused on re-signing here in the offseason?
Yeah, it depends on how he kind of fits in. Probably Matt Duchene's probably on the top of your list there. And probably someone like Yanni Hakanpää on the defensive on the blue line is probably someone I'll look at. I know a lot of people probably look at Joe Pavelski and think he's the most important one to resign, but you got to keep in mind next year when he is a UFA, he'll be 40 years old. So this is somebody who is getting up there in age. So I don't know if they do re-sign him, they do bring him back. It won't be for more than 1 to 2 years. So I don't think he's as important as someone like Matt Duchene or someone like Craig Smith or Hakanpää to go ahead and re-sign. Because I mean, Pavelski is, don't get me wrong, he's a clutch playoff style hockey player. But at the end of the day, he's gonna be 40 next year. So I don't know whether or not they're gonna, I mean, they'll re-sign him. He'll probably take a pay cut to stay at Dallas if he wants to keep playing. But he's not on the top of my list for re-signings. I'll probably look at Duchene and Hakanpää.
Interesting. Interesting. Me and Nick find a way to disagree a lot. But as we discussed with Nathan TK earlier, Pavelski is such an important part of the power play. And when he was gone, the power play looked so bad. And I said on the show earlier, Nick wasn't here for it, but I said age is just a number. And I think Pavelski, third overall in the team last year in points, unless he all of a sudden loses it, I'm not saying go sign him to a 3-year deal. But
Yeah,
you
no.
got to find a way to get him back for at least another year. Being on that top line,
he wasn't a priority for me because I do think if he does resign, it's for a year, maybe 2. So that's why he's not as high of a priority for me because most likely he will resign back.
Yeah. What do you think about Wedgwood? Should they be running to give Wedgwood a big contract, or what do you think there?
No.
I'm joking.
I mean, he'll be the third string probably in a couple years if he stays because Matt Murray will probably be the backup and you got arguably a top 5 goaltender and Jake Ottinger. So Wedgwood's not a priority now.
Yeah, of course. I was kidding. Looking at a possible lineup here for the Stars, according to Daily Faceoff, no big surprises here. It's kind of as expected. And you mentioned it with Sagan and Duchene, and that's exactly how they have it. You mentioned Smith on the fourth line. That's exactly how they had it. And you mentioned Steele as a healthy scratch, and that's exactly how they have it. So, Nick, you're seeing eye to eye with Daily Faceoff. Are there any changes you think should be made to this lineup? And what are your thoughts about this lineup compared to other teams in the NHL?
Yeah, I'm seeing eye to eye with Daily Faceoff because I have Daily Faceoff on my other screen. But I mean, this is basically the same lineup that they're running out there from last year that was 2 games away from a Stanley Cup appearance. So I think this team will be just fine. I think this core is starting to build a little bit. If they can get what they need from Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, this is an elite team. This is a team that will compete for the Central Division. This is a team that will compete for the Western Conference. This is a team that has an upside of the Stanley Cup. Like when we talk about this Dallas Stars team, if they stay healthy and they get the production they need from those guys, and Robertson continues to develop, and Wyatt Johnson continues to develop, and Marchand continues to play well, Duchene fits in there well, this is a team we could be talking about making the Stanley Cup. Like that's the upside of this team. I like Heiskanen on the top line there. For defensemen, I know you love Ryan Suter, so that's a decent top line there. I like Hakanpää. I liked Hakanpää when he was a Hurricane. Like I remember back when he was with Carolina, I liked him back then too. And Lindell on the third line just shows me you have defenseman depth there. And Jake Ottinger is somebody who can go out there and steal you playoff series. So I really like this Dallas Stars team, and I don't know. I think we're gonna be looking at their odds on the next screen. I mean, they're not a team that's on my radar for a Stanley Cup future, but they have the potential to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, for sure. And that is exactly what we're doing next, is looking at future bets. And looking at Ottinger wins, it's at 35.5. He had 37 last year. He played in 62 games. Nathan was saying earlier on the show that if Dallas is playing him 60 plus games again, then you're going to see some angry tweets from Nathan on Twitter because he doesn't want that. And really looking at it as for the playoffs, Ottinger looked tired
Yeah.
throughout the playoffs last year. So it is important. Matt Murray had 3 games. Wedgwood had 18 starts. So it's important for Dallas to maybe get a backup playing. Ottinger wins being at 35.5. I kind of said maybe under just because of the fact that they should be trying to find a backup goaltender. But will they? Will they play Ottinger again? That is the question. Overall, here at the Future Bets, anything on this list catch your eye or any thoughts on Dallas's future this year?
Yeah, as I mentioned with Colorado, I think that this is a team that can win the Central Division. I think if you just put a bet down on both Colorado and Dallas to win the division, you'll come out profitable because I don't really see any other team competing for that division. I think those two teams, Dallas and Colorado, are head and shoulders above the third best team in this division, which probably is Minnesota. So I do see probably maybe a little bit of value with them at plus 170. One thing that kind of caught my attention here is Vegas is even money to have more points than Dallas. I'll take Vegas there. I think that Vegas is still a team to beat in the Western Conference, and when it comes to it, I think they're probably the better overall team. But for me, I mean, if you're looking for a little bit of a bigger plus money, he's not my favorite to win the award, but Ottinger at 12-1. I obviously have another goaltender in mind, which will be in a show in a little bit. That'll bring that guy up. Yeah, maybe a small bet on them to win the division. Maybe a small bet on Ottinger, Vezina, and I'd take Vegas over Dallas at even money. Just if this was minus 115 on both sides for that Vegas Dallas prop, I probably wouldn't take it. But getting even money with a team that I think is still a better hockey team, I would lean towards Vegas there.
Now, Nick, if you plan on giving out Jordan Bennington to win the Vezina, I'm unfortunately going to have to kick you off the show.
What? What? No, he's like 100-1. What? No, he's not the goaltender.
That's not acceptable. No, I know. But and one thing that Nathan mentioned earlier on the show, and before we get to the end here, I really wanted to bring it up, which is a great point. Nathan said if you want to bet Dallas to win the division, you might want to wait a little bit because Dallas did not play very well on the road overall last year. And they have a really tough road stretch to start the season. I believe he said 9 of their first 11, I think, are on the road. So Dallas, if you do like them to win the division, and I agree with you, Nick, I think it's between Dallas and Colorado to win the division, you may want to wait a little bit and try to get a better price for the Stars to win the division.
Yeah, that's not a bad look. I think that, I mean, I have to take a look at schedules and things along those lines. But if there's somebody like a Minnesota or a Nashville or a St. Louis has a really easy schedule to start the year and they get off to a hot start and you can get Dallas or Colorado at plus 200, plus 250, then I may maybe take a shot there. But yeah, I'd probably look for at least $2 to back either Dallas or Colorado to make it worth your while.
Yeah, for sure. But that is the Dallas Stars preview show. Thank you, Nick, for coming on. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching this NHL season preview show. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons as we continue on breaking down all 32 NHL teams, which will lead to the regular season when the Getting Wild with Terry and Friends NHL betting show will return. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Of course, make sure to follow everyone in the description below that was on today's show to show them some support. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you on the next show.